Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 44 of the FilmBrony podcast. I am, of course, Nick Canino, the guy in charge of this. And with me, I have my co-host who is also who created this whole podcast. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, after a year that has been a year of ups and downs for Hollywood, it's time to finally put that year to rest with the rest of our movie reviews as well as our top 20 best of list.
Yes. And hello to everybody involved. Hello, Network 98. Good evening. John Wick All the Way Alternate Channel. And hello, Jose. Welcome to the podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we got a lot to do tonight. We got the rest of the movie reviews. We got the last remaining movie reviews from 2023 we have to cover, and then we're also going to go over some Oscar snubs and our best of 2023 list. So no, I will only be seeing it on my computer.
Yeah, same here. I'm not giving that franchise any more of my money.
No, especially after what happened. Especially after I saw Morbius. Fuck that movie.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with our usual. Let's start with what we usually do on the podcast, and that is the Blu-ray Showcase.
All right. After Hours.
Nice. That's a great film.
A movie I reviewed earlier on this podcast. I still have my problems with it, but I still kind of like it. AI Artificial Intelligence.
I really love that film, honestly.
Angela's Asses.
Nice.
Next is right here is the real Avatar, Avatar: The Last Airbender. All four Avengers movies.
Nice. Bunghole Web.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Nice.
The Blob remake.
I really like that film. I think it's one of the rare remakes that I really enjoy very much.
The Cable Guy.
Nice.
Carol.
That's a great film.
Clock Stoppers. Crybaby.
I love that film.
Daredevil, Elektra, and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. If you ask me, I only care about these two. Elektra, no.
Elektra sucks.
Yeah. Dawn of the Dead and Land of the Dead.
Nice.
This Elvis collection.
Sweet.
Apollo 13, Backdraft, Aaron Brockovich, and Lone Survivor.
All very good films.
Excalibur. The Holdovers.
I also have it too, The Holdovers.
Jules. The spiritual predecessor to Lucy, Limitless.
Nice.
Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Nice.
Magnificent Seven, the remake.
That's a very good remake.
Next is a movie what I like to call Winnie the Pooh Blind Honey, but done right. The Mean One.
Oh, yeah.
Missing.
Nice. That's a very good film.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
The only good film in the franchise.
Nashville.
A great film.
Of Mice and Men, the remake.
Great remake.
Orchestra Rehearsal. Panic Room.
Nice, the David Fincher film.
Prey. Primer and Upstream Color.
Sweet.
The Producers Reboot. Red Heat and The Running Man. Rick and Morty seasons 1 to 4.
Nice.
The Straight Story.
The David Lynch film, that's a good one.
All 6 Terminator films. Three Amigos.
I like that film.
The Three Faces of Eve.
Nice.
WandaVision.
Nice.
Won't You Be My Neighbor?
That's one of the best documentary movies I've ever seen in my life.
You Hurt My Feelings.
That's a great film.
And I also got these cute little toy thingies.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Okay, I only have like 3 Blu-rays, and then I have a couple. I have a particular collection that I'm doing that I want to show. Um, um, they're all 3 are VHS tapes, but you'll see where I'm coming from with this. It's in part for this one particular studio who's recently celebrating their 100th anniversary. So, but before I get to that, let me just start up with the Blu-rays of mine. Spotlight.
One of 2015's best.
My favorite film of 2015, honestly. Cold War.
That's a good one.
Yes. And Søren mentioned this, The Holdovers. Really love that film. I can't wait to talk more about it when we do our best of list later on. And then these 3 movies I have here are all Columbia classics. This year, Columbia Pictures is celebrating their 100th anniversary, and in honor of that, I got 3. I thought it would be necessary to get 3 films that won Best Picture, starting with All the King's Men.
That's a good movie. Way better than that Sean Penn movie that was.
Yeah, really.
Meh.
Yeah, really. I know you found this movie overrated, but I think it's one. But sorry, Søren, this is one of my all-time favorite movies, From Here to Eternity.
At least we can agree it's way better than Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor.
Yes, way better. That Michael Bay Pearl Harbor movie can go fuck itself.
Yeah.
And then one of my all-time favorite movies, and I was really happy to get this one, On the Waterfront.
That's a classic right there.
It is a classic. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Marlon Brando is fantastic in that film. Like this is like this and The Godfather are like 2 of the best performances he's given out of his career. From one, yeah.
I hope Columbia has a better 100th anniversary than Warner and Disney last year.
I hope so. Anyway, and MGM is celebrating their 100th anniversary too this year. We'll see how that goes too. But anyway, let's get on with the last remaining movie reviews. Starting with, you go first.
American Fiction. This movie, I guess, is like the producers for black writers, as a struggling writer purposely writes the most stereotypical black book he can think of just out of spite, only for it to unexpectedly become a massive success that he has to play along with. When it's about that, it's really entertaining, especially thanks to Cord Jefferson's writing and Jeffrey Wright's performance. However, there are these gaps where it focuses on the writer's life that isn't nearly as engaging as the other stuff, and it kind of got in the way. Regardless, this is otherwise an entertaining as hell social comedy, which is bound to have a ton of awards buzz in the future, and I'll give it the seal of approval.
This is one of the best movies I've seen this year. This is one of the best movies I've seen in 2023, honestly. It was a great movie. It was a great social satire, unlike the stereotypical black books, that while also being a humanistic story and while also being a humanistic story involving like the writer's life. And honestly, I was honestly invested throughout the entire thing with both the satire and the humanistic story involving the family. The acting was absolutely phenomenal. Jeffrey Wright, this is one of his best performances he's given out in his career, and I am so happy he's nominated for best actor for this one because he is fantastic. All the other performances, including from Tracy Ellis Ross, John Orwitz, Issa Rae, and Sterling Kane Brown, are just fantastic. Hello, welcome to the podcast. I'm doing just fine today. But yeah, this was a great film, and the writing was sharp. It's very well directed. The story had me invested throughout since it was felt well structured and highly engaging. And it also has one of my favorite endings I've seen in the movie this entire year. In 2023, I meant. So I know, but I'm aware of that, and it's good to see you again. It's just I've been so busy with life, honestly. And yeah, he isn't in the film all that much, but he is. But Keith Davis is amazing in that film. Um, and Keith David actually, never mind. But yeah, this is absolutely one of the best movies I've seen in 2023. It's entertaining, it's funny, and by the way, the humor, when it came to the humor in the film, it felt sharp, witty, and clever, especially with the satire. It really had me laughing hysterically. It really had me laughing hysterically throughout. Like it was just that funny. Yeah, it's highly entertaining. It's deeply moving. It's just flat out riveting and one of the best films I've seen in 2023. And I'm definitely going to give American Fiction a 10 out of 10 or an A plus. Congratulations, Cord Jefferson, for making this wonderful directorial debut. I cannot wait to see what you do next. And then the next film we have, next film I'm about to talk about is hold on. Next film I'm about to talk about is Monster. Monster is the new film from hold on, let me look this up really quick. There we go. So it's the new Japanese drama film from the director of Broker. And it involves a mother who confronts a teacher after noticing disturbing changes in her son's behavior. This is a great story involving like growing up, as well as like what one may not notice about the other. And the acting was just phenomenal from everybody involved. Hirokazu Kurita's directing was fantastic. It's very well written. The story felt highly engaging. The cinematography and musical score are beautiful. There is some real tension that this movie does focus on that keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it overall has one of my favorite endings I've seen in the movie in 2023. I really recommend giving this one a watch. If you're a fan of Hirokazu Kurita's other films, including Nobody Knows and Broker, I highly recommend giving this one a watch. 9.5 out of 10. Or an A. The only reason why it's not getting a 10 is because I did feel there were a couple editing choices they made in the film that did come across as a bit uneven at times. But overall, it was still a good film. It was still a great film and definitely one of my favorites of 2023. Check it out.
Next. All right. Next, we have The Zone of Interest, and this movie is basically about a German family who tries to live in ignorance while their house is literally right next to one of the deadliest concentration camps during the Holocaust. And I will give Jonathan Glazer credit for giving us a unique point of view of what it means to live knowing your connection to such a historical travesty and how the efforts to ignore it are in vain. The cinematography is fantastic, the sound design is phenomenal, and the music is beyond chilling. All it led to an ending that just left me more speechless than anything. Overall, Zone of Interest
Yes.
is one of the most haunting and thought provoking movie experiences in a long time. I know I gave this a seal of approval when I first reviewed it, but fuck it. If I can change my rating after the fact for a shitty movie like Moonfort, then I can certainly do it for a great movie like this. I'll give it a belated seal of cinema.
Another film that's heading on my list of the year's best. This is a great film that that captures the historical depiction of like the evil in these people, and like what they've done, and what they have done, especially when it's taking place like like in what is considered the worst thing to ever happen in history, which is the Holocaust. What I loved about this movie is that although you really see the mundane task of like a Nazi soldier and his family, what made it like one of the most like chilling films I've seen in recent years are the sound effects editing and design of the people's screams, as well as like gunshots being heard um in the camps. And right away, it really had me on the edge of my seat throughout. Like, I even thinking about that, it was just even thinking about that, it still gives me chills to this day. It still gives me chills. The acting was fantastic. Sandra Huller, what a year she had. First Anatomy of a Fall, now this film. Her character is such. I hated her character so much because of what she did to her children. But man, her performance was so powerful that this is one of those characters you love to hate. And the same thing could be said with Christian Friedel, who plays Rudolf Haas. I hated his character, but like Sandra Huller, his character, the way he performs Rudolf Haas in the film felt so powerful that this is one of those characters you love to hate. The score felt haunting. It's very well directed, very well written. The story had me emotionally invested throughout, and like I said, the sound effects, editing, and designs is some of the best I've heard in the movie this in 2023. Honestly, it's between this and Oppenheimer on which one I feel it should win best sound. And the cinematography, musical score, editing, pacing are all fantastic. And as Søren mentioned, it leads to this ending that is one of the most haunting ending that really one of the most haunting endings I've ever seen in a movie. Yeah, one of the year's best films without a doubt. And honestly, this is also like one of the best movies I've seen this year, Killers of the Flower Moon. This is also a perfect depiction on how, if we're not careful, on how history will repeat itself if we're not careful. So, yeah, absolutely one of the best movies I've seen this year. And honestly, this might be my favorite movie that Jonathan Glazer has done so far. It's between this and Sexy Beast, but boy, he did a wonderful job with this film. He did a wonderful job capturing the horrors of like the Holocaust, as well as like the depiction of the evil, the banality of evil in these fucking people, these fucking Nazis. It's just, they're the reason why like they're considered the worst ever because of like how malicious and dangerous they are. And given in a time we're living in right now, this couldn't have come out at a better time. Easily one of the best movies of the year. The Zone of Interest easily gets a 10 out of 10 or an A+. Well done, Jonathan Glazer. Go ahead.
Next is The Color Purple. After a ton of recent remakes of beloved classics like West Side Story and All Quiet on the Western Front, I was hoping this one falls under the same category. And while this mostly succeeded, I can't exactly say this is among the same level. I will say it's well acted throughout, and it's got some solid production values and musical numbers. However, it doesn't really do anything to make it fresh compared to the original Spielberg classic. Also, it's a bit too long and preachy at times, and throughout, I've been really missing the subtlety Spielberg put into his version. So while this isn't a masterpiece, I will say this is a decent addition to the feel-good civil rights Oscar film category, even if I'd vastly prefer the original version. I'll give this one the seal of approval.
I do agree that the film was a bit too long, and I wish they could have cut 10 minutes of the first act down a bit. I understand why it was there, but it did kind of drag a bit, and there were a couple of editing choices that mainly on the time jumps that did feel a bit uneven at times. But overall, this is one of my favorite films of the year, honestly. I'm so glad Danielle Brooks is nominated for Best Supporting Actress because she was phenomenal as Sophia. And all the other acting is terrific. And all the other actors are fantastic too, including, including Taraji P. Henson, Fantasia Barberino in her outstanding acting debut as Celine, Coleman Domingo in a way superior performance for him than in Rustin. Sorry, not sorry. Corey Hawkins, Holly Bailey, and Louis Gossett Jr., of all people. On top of that, there are other things that I love about the film as well, from its engaging story to its terrific writing, excellent directing. The musical numbers were fantastic, especially with how they were choreographed. Fantastic cinematography, great pacing. Even despite how hard I felt about the runtime, excellent production values and costume design, and a very moving and emotional ending. Yes, I heard about that. Fuck you, Zaslav. Absolute, yeah. Overall, this was absolute. Overall, while I still think the original. I agree with Søren that the original Color Purple is the far superior film, but nevertheless, this is. I still found the Color Purple, the new Color Purple, to be one of the most moving films of 2023, and it gets a 9.5 out of 10 or an A. And we were originally going to review this film on the last podcast. I'm not sure if we did, but the next film we're going to talk. I'm not sure if we did review this one, but the next film we're going to talk about is Maestro.
We already talked about it the podcast ago.
Yeah, no, never mind. Our next film we're going to talk about, though, is Ferrari.
Honestly, is it just me, or has Adam Driver had some of the worst luck recently? First House of Gucci, then White Noise, which wasn't great, then 65, and now this. I mean, his performance along with Penelope Cruz are good, and it's got some good cinematography and sound design. However, the race scenes, which were heavily advertised, are few and far between, as most of the time you'll just have to go through boring drama involving Enzo Ferrari's life, and I couldn't for the life of me follow it. It's safe to say that Michael Mann's comeback was a hugely disappointing one, which I'll give the seal of mediocrity.
Well, here's what I'll say about the film. I did agree it was a bit too long, and as I did feel there were a couple scenes that did kind of drag the film down a bit, but otherwise, this is one of those movies where I liked it at first but didn't love it. But then the more I thought about this film, I actually grew to love it a bit more. Yes, it's no Ford v Ferrari, but I don't think it really needs to be because I thought it was it was a highly engaging biopic on Enzo Ferrari, from its terrific acting, especially from Adam Driver, Penelope Cruz, who, by the way, Penelope Cruz was easily the show stealer in the whole film. Shailene Woodley was fantastic, and so was Jack O'Connell and Patrick Dempsey. The score is great. The cinematography was fantastic. It's nicely edited through. Okay, there were also a couple editing choices that I will admit did feel a bit uneven at times, but that's it. But oh my God, yes. Also, Disney does not want to release any more critically acclaimed films on physical media, all because of that dipshit Bobak. And yet, Amsterdam, one of the worst movies that Søren and I saw in 2022, got a Blu-ray release.
Double fucking standards, let me tell you.
Yeah, really. And I find it even more hypocritical given the fact that Poor Things, one of the top 5 films I've seen in 2023, is also getting a Blu-ray release a few weeks later. Double standards much?
I mean, I will say that Bob Iger is still better than Bob Chapek, but honestly, that's like saying Boss Baby 1 is better than Boss Baby 2. They're still really bad.
Exactly. Anyway, let's just Yeah, screw Disney. And screw the CEO too. Bob Chapek and Bob Iger are just terrible people. They think streaming services is like the new way to the future. Fuck you.
Even though Disney Plus is currently losing subscribers as we speak.
Yeah, really. She is, but honestly, I'd rather take her over Bob Iger any day. And Bob Chapek. I'd rather take her over Bob Chapek and Bob Iger any day. Oh yeah, and Disney's getting more sequels. So it's all about making the Benjamins, folks. Making the Benjamins. Fuck you. Anyway, I got a little sidetracked for a bit. I already mentioned the musical score, acting. It's very well directed. The story actually had me highly invested. Actually had me invested throughout. And I love the racing sequences. They're not in the film all that much. Like, they're only in the third act of the film, but when you do see it, boy, is it highly engaging to watch. Hello, Leah. Welcome to the podcast. And yeah, it's been a few years. Welcome back, Bob Cockpack. And anyway, the racing sequences, especially with how they were edited, shot and directed, are just fantastic. Especially with this one scene, which we're not going to get into without. I'd rather not say without getting into spoilers. That had me going. Once you see it, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, overall, I actually loved Ferrari. It's highly engaging. I thought it was highly engaging. It's exhilarating throughout, and I'm going to give Ferrari a 9.5 out of 10 or an A. It's no Ford v Ferrari. It's no Ford v Ferrari, but I nevertheless found Ferrari to be a great film regardless. Okay. Excuse me. And then these last two I just recently saw, and one of them is the one that Ethan pointed out. Ethan pointed out is one of the films that's not getting a physical media release because of fucking Disney being greedy pricks. But that film is All of Us Strangers. It's based on the 1987 novel Strangers, and it stars Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal. And what this movie's about is, well, let me look this up really quick. Okay, what All of Us Strangers is about is it's about a screenwriter who is drawn back to his childhood home. Okay, a screenwriter is drawn back to his childhood home, and then enters into a fledgling relationship with a mysterious neighbor, and as he then discovers his parents appear to be living just as they were on the day they died 30 years before. I wanted to see this movie ever since I saw the trailer for it, and again, Disney, double standards much? This is why I sometimes hate talking about Disney at this point. And honestly, this is why Disney, I knew from the very beginning, Disney owning Fox was the worst thing they've ever done. It was the worst thing they ever done. And I still stand by that. Anyway, I love this movie. I really, really love this film. I will say, though, my only problem I did have with the film was the ending. I understood the decision of why he wanted to make that ending like that, but I did feel that, and I did feel it was a bit rushed, and I did wish they could have explored more on it. But otherwise, All of Us Strangers was a fantastic film, and All of Us Strangers is a poignant, mesmerizing, and deeply moving film that does a terrific job exploring the theme of grief and makes you think on what you would say to your dead loved one if you were in Andrew Scott's character's shoes. Andrew Scott was absolutely wonderful in this movie as Adam. His performance was so moving that you feel the emotion that his character goes through from losing his parents and how he wants to speak with them one more time. Paul Mescal, Claire Foy, and Jamie Bell are also terrific in this movie. The themes of grief, loneliness, trauma, nostalgia, coming to terms with the past, and the danger of not moving on from it felt so well executed. The writing was terrific. The writing was terrific. It's very well directed. The story had me invested throughout. The soundtrack was wonderful. The cinematography was beautiful. It's very well edited and very well paced throughout. And there were some. It's just like, and there were some emotional moments in the film that actually did give me misty eyed. So, yeah, I really loved it. It's one of my favorite films of 2023, and I'm going to give All of Us Strangers a very enthusiastic 9.5 out of 10, or an A. No, man, you're fine. You're fine. We like again, this is what happens when corporates just don't even know what they're doing.
And honestly, I will say, between Warner Brothers and Disney, at least Disney doesn't shelve out completely finished movies.
Unlike Warner Brothers, who did so with Batgirl and is planning to get rid of Coyote versus Acme. Dumb fucked Zaslav.
I honestly don't know what's worse, him buying Warner Brothers or Disney buying Fox.
To be honest, I don't know either. Next film we're gonna talk. Next film I know we have a couple more films left. Next one is an animated film that I don't know why I didn't mention this one yet, but it's called Migration.
You know, for an animation studio that mostly consists of movies that range from decent to mediocre, this was another decent one. Like most of their work, it shows up its colorful animation and a mostly good voice cast, as well as a few laughs here and there. However, it did suffer from weak characters like that villain and Aquafina's Better Bird performance last year that's still not good, and I felt the climax was a bit lame. But it is a decent film to take your kids to for the holidays, and I'll give Migration the seal of accuracy.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. Yes, the plot is predictable. The film's pacing does get wonky at times, and 10% of the jokes didn't land, and it was overall a bit short. But all that is forgiven thanks to clever writing, and I have to disagree with you on the characterization, Søren, because I actually like the characterization. Good directing, fantastic animation, great voice acting, a very good musical score, solid editing, 90% of the jokes landing very well, and the movie having some heart in it as well. So, yeah, you know, I want to say this. How is it we live in a year where, how is it in 2023 where Illumination makes two good movies like the Super Mario Brothers movie and Migration, and yet Disney embarrassed themselves this year with Wish? And same thing with DreamWorks, with Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, and Trolls Band Together.
Well, to be fair, Disney also made Elemental from Pixar.
That's Pixar though. But yeah, yes, but still, like, how is it we live in a year where all of a sudden Illumination of all studios, ends up making two good animated films, and minus Elemental, Disney embarrassed themselves with Wish, and same thing with DreamWorks. You gotta think, guys. You gotta think what you're doing next time when making an animated film. No, I'm not, sadly.
Okay, I'm not drained Despicable Me 4, but it just looked unnecessary.
Yeah, really. But yeah, Migration gets a 7 out of 10, or a B. Next up is Anyone But You. Anyone But You is the R-rated romantic comedy starring Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, and it's loosely based on Much Ado About Nothing. And this movie wasn't that great. It wasn't horrible since it does have some funny and charming moments here and there. And Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney do deliver some good performances and chemistry in the film. Unfortunately, I found Anyone But You to be cliched, underwhelming, and just overall just a pretty forgettable film. Not much more to say other than it's just pretty forgettable. 4.5 out of 10 or C.
And yeah, John Wick fan, I heard about David Gordon Green stepping down for the Exorcist sequel.
Honestly, it's best for him to do so.
It's honestly best to just cancel the Exorcist sequel. This franchise is all but done.
Yeah, really, especially since you guys know how you already knew how I felt about The Exorcist Believer, which was the worst movie I saw in 2023, and I still stand by that. And keep in mind, I have not seen Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, but if I had seen that movie, I can only imagine how worse that film would be. And still to this day, I still refuse to see that one. To this day.
You're not missing shit.
I know, and thank goodness too. All right, so next up is The Boys in the Boat. This is based on a true story involving the University of Washington rowing team and their quest to compete in the 1936 Summer Olympics. And yeah, this movie was all right. Yeah, this movie was all right. The rowing sequences are fantastic. The acting, especially from Joel Edgerton and Callum Turner, was great. And so is Alexandre Desplat's musical score, and the cinematography is excellent. And the film's production values and costume design are very good, since it feels like you're back in 1936. Unfortunately, the film is riddled with underdog cliches that I've seen in other films before. And worst of all, the editing, the way it's edited too, it looks like something I would find in a made-for-TV movie. And it doesn't help that the screenplay was a bland mess, especially when it comes to not only the dialogue, but also its characterization. Yeah, this is one of those films that just feels rushed and just cliched. So it's not a terrible film. It is watchable to say the least, but I really expected more from this film, especially given that it's based on a true story involving the rowing team. Yeah, what a shame. 5 out of 10 or C plus. And then the last movie I'm going to talk about, I just recently watched this today. It's called The Teacher's Lounge. The Teacher's Lounge is the story. It's a foreign language film from Germany, which recently has been nominated for Best International Feature Film, about teacher Carla Nowak, who decides to get involved when one of her students is suspected of theft. Caught between when one of her it's actually when one of the faculties when one of either the student or like faculty at school is suspected of theft. Caught between her ideals and the school system, the consequences of her actions threaten to break her. Break her. This was absolutely one of the most effective, chilling, and exhilarating dramas I've ever seen. The actress that played the teacher, Carla Nowak, her name is Liane Benesh. If I mispronounce it, I'm sorry, but she was fantastic in the film. All the acting was terrific. The story had me emotionally invested and engaged throughout. It's very well directed, very well written. The score felt haunting. The cinematography was terrific, especially with how they shot the movie in a 4x, especially with how they shot the movie in an aspect ratio, like you would see on those like videotapes and stuff. It's very well edited. The pacing was fantastic, and the ending really had me floored with how unexpected it was. And even though the movie does have a bit of a conclusion, you never really know what. This is one of those films where you never really know what happened, but you do see the consequences on how like an accusation just destroys a society, like schools, for example, and other things. So this was a great film. It's one of the best films I've seen in 2023, and a really excellent way to end off the year too. Really excellent way to end off the year. And what I said before, yeah, it also explores the consequences of accusations, and best of all, the themes involving truth, justice, racism, respect, and children's rights are all well executed, and so is the theme of power dynamics too. Absolutely one of the best films of 2023. 10 out of 10 or an A+. I love this film. Check it out.
Now, before we get to our best of list, we're going to go over the recent Oscar nominations. Now, these nominations weren't the worst we've seen. That honor goes to 2021's nominations. And I will give the Academy credit for nominating films that are more widely known this time around, like last year. But there are a handful of snubs. But hold on.
Oh, I'm not sure if we reviewed this. Did we review the Iron Claw?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Anyways, onto the Oscars. For best... Sorry, clicked the wrong article. Okay, there you go. For Best Picture, what are nominated are American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Honestly, I'd replace American Fiction and Anatomy of a Fall, which were decent, and Maestro, which were eh. I'd replace him with The Iron Claw, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Are There Gods Me Margaret. Should win Oppenheimer.
Yeah, really. Oppenheimer needs to win that one.
For Best Director, we have Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Chris Nolan for Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. Replace Justine Triet with the Spider-Verse trio. Give the Oscar to Chris Nolan.
Yeah, really. Honestly, it's Nolan's year to win.
Yeah. Best Actor: Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. Replace Bradley Cooper and Coleman Domingo with Zac Efron for The Iron Claw and Leo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, especially for look. I do agree Coleman Domingo was great in Rustin. I do agree with that, but he's not one of the 5 best actors of the year. He's not one of the 5 best actors of the year. Leonardo DiCaprio deserves that Best Actor nomination.
Yeah. Which should win? Cillian Murphy. Best Actress: Annette Bening for Naiad, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Kelly Mulligan for Maestro, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. I'd replace Annette Bening and Kelly Mulligan with Greta Lee for Past Lives and Margot Robbie for Barbie. Should win Lily Gladstone.
Yeah, really, she deserves it.
Best Supporting Actor: we have Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, RDJ for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. Replace Sterling K. Brown with Holt McCaney for The Iron Claw. Should win RDJ.
Yeah.
Best Supporting Actress: Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, American Ferrera for Barbie, Jodie Foster for Naiad, Davine Joy Randall for The Holdovers. Replace Jodie Foster with either Kathy Bates or Rachel McAdams for Are You There, God Me Margaret. Should win The Holdovers.
Yeah, really. Honestly, she deserves to win that one because she deserves to win Best Supporting Actress because her performance as like the lunch like lady was like fantastic.
Yeah. Best Original Screenplay: Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. Replace Anatomy of a Fall, Maestro, and May December with Air, The Iron Claw, and Missing. Should win The Holdovers.
I disagree with Anatomy of a Fall and May December since I love those films, but I do agree that I do agree with you that Air should have gotten a recognition.
Best Adapted Screenplay: American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Replace American Fiction, which was half good, and The Zone of Interest, which was great but not a screenplay film. I'd replace him with Are You There, God Has Made Margaret and Killers of the Flower Moon. Give the Oscars to Oppenheimer.
Give it to Oppenheimer. It's their year.
Best Animated Feature: we have The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'd replace Robot Dreams with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And my pick overall is Spider-Verse, but part of me is hoping Nimona could win so that Blue Sky could have a posthumous Oscar.
Nimona was good, but I honestly found it a bit overpraised if I'm being honest.
Best production design: we have Barbie.
And also one last thing really quick. It doesn't make any sense for Robot Dreams to be nominated for like Best Animated Feature for 2023 when it hasn't even been released in the United States yet.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still excited to see that film. I saw the trailer for it and the animation looks beautiful, but this really I think it should really qualify as a 2024 film instead of a 2023 film.
Yeah. For Best Production Design, we have Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Give the Oscars to Poor Things.
Yeah, really.
Or even Barbie.
Yeah. Honestly, Poor Things deserves it.
For Best Costume Design, we have Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Honestly, Oppenheimer wasn't really the best costuming. I'd honestly replace it with either Dungeons and Dragons or even Wonka. My pick to win, Napoleon, maybe?
I wouldn't. I I I would have agreed, except we're talking about a film that wasn't even that great, especially in my opinion, especially when like especially when I still will never get over this. Ridley Scott would like came out as being nothing more than a douchebag by saying, you hate my movie? Well, fuck you. Like, dude, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You realize that, right?
I'm just gonna ignore everything he said and judge the movie on its own. But anyways, for best cinematography, we have El Conde, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I'd replace El Conde and Maestro with The Killer and the Zone of Interest. Give the Oscar to Oppenheimer.
Seriously.
Best film editing: Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I'd replace Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers with The Killer and Tetris, and I'll give the Oscar to Oppenheimer. Best makeup and hairstyling: we have Golda, which I've never even heard of, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. Replace Golda with either Guardians of the Galaxy or Infinity Pool. Should win. Even though I didn't really love Maestro, the makeup on Bradley Cooper was fantastic, so
Yes.
I'd probably give it the win.
Yes.
For Best Sound, we have The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. Should win, I don't know, it's between Oppenheimer and The Zone of Interest.
I'm still debating as well.
For Best Visual Effects, we have The Creator, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and Napoleon. Should win The Creator.
The Creator should win that. I mean, how is it that an $80 million film, how is it that the visual effects, even for an $80 million movie, somehow looks way more well detailed than a $200 million movie?
I don't know. For Best Original Score, we have American Fiction, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Replace American Fiction and Indiana Jones with Spider-Verse and The Zone of Interest. Give the Oscar to Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer needs to win that.
For Best Original Song, we have The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot, I'm Just Ken from Barbie, It Never Went Away from American Symphony, A Song for My People from Killers of the Flower Moon, and What Was I Made For from Barbie, which not only won the Grammy for Best Song for Media, but it actually won Best Song of the Year overall.
And I think it deserves it.
As for Snubs, I'd replace The Fire Inside and It Never Went Away with Am I Dreaming from Spider-Verse and any of the songs from Wonka. Should win, I'm Just Ken.
Nice.
As for international feature film, we have Il Capitano from Italy, Perfect Days, Society of the Snow, directed by the guy behind The Monster Calls, The Teaser's Lounge, which Nick just mentioned it, and The Zone of Interest. Obviously, Zone of Interest is gonna win, but to me, it doesn't really make sense to snub Anatomy of a Fall, even though it's a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would honestly, I would replace. I would honestly replace. Let's see. I would honestly replace the Il Capitano film with like Anatomy of a Fall.
And the rest of these categories I don't really care about, but live action short film, part of me is hoping The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar wins so that Wes Anderson has an Oscar in his hands.
Well, we'll see what happens.
But with all that out of the way, let's get let's get down to business.
Yep, it's time. Well, guys, you've been waiting for this. Here it is. 20 of the best movies that Søren and I saw in 2023. Now, like 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 the worst films of 2023 list, please keep in mind that this is just our personal picks on what we feel are the best films of 2023. If you disagree with any of the choices that are on the list, that's totally all right. Just remember that art is subjective. And you're allowed to feel you're allowed to show your list of the best films that you saw in 2023 in the comments below. So make sure you do so right away. So anyway, let's get on with the list. First up, we'll share some honorable mentions.
My honorable mentions are Jules, The Boy and the Heron, Infinity Pool, Dungeons and Dragons on Thieves, Knock at the Cabin, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, The Covenant, Hypnotic, Air, You Hurt My Feelings, and last but not least, The Iron Claw.
My honorable mentions are Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, The Color Purple, Creed 3, Joyride, Polite Society, Dream Scenario, Showing Up, Infinity Pool, Ferrari, The Killer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Asteroid City, 1001, Priscilla, Monster, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Bottoms, All of Us Strangers, and the film that came very close to being at number 20 on the list, Blackberry.
All right, as always, on to the top 20. My number 20 was a hard time to figure out. My gut was going for The Iron Claw. My brain was saying Air. My left kidney was saying You Hurt My Feelings. But I decided to go with my heart on this one, and thus my number 20 is Wonka. After two of the most famous movies in the fantasy adventure genre, Paul King had a ton of shoes to fill, and it's safe to say he delivered. While I still have my issues in the screenplay department, it's more than worth overlooking due to the colorful characters and production values, as well as the fun as hell soundtrack, which was more than snubbed by the Academy. If you're a fan of the Wonka franchise in some way, shape, or form, this will more than satisfy you, and it's a safe pick to start off my list.
All right, number 20 on the list. All right, first up at number 20 on the list was one of the first films I gave a 10 out of 10 to, and here it is. Number 20, Air. Air is one of the most well-acted, compelling, and highly entertaining films I've seen this entire year. How Ben Affleck and writer Alex Convery were able to execute the true story of one of the greatest partnerships in sports history in terms of Michael Jordan and the shoe company by making it highly engaging and well-structured is nothing short of remarkable. And as a result, this is one of those movies where you don't have to be a sports fan to enjoy such an entertaining and engaging experience. And it also shows that Ben Affleck has still got it, not only as an actor, but also as a filmmaker as well. On top of the story being well-structured and highly engaging, what I loved about this movie, is that throughout the film story, even though you know the outcome of how the deal turned out, it nevertheless keeps you invested and on the edge of your seat. It nevertheless keeps you invested as well. Keeps you invested and on your toes on what's going to happen next, as well as on the edge of your seat. The screenplay was fantastic. It's very well directed. The acting, Ben Affleck's directing was fantastic, especially with the way he directs the actors in the film, as well as guiding us through the timeline, which is nothing short of amazing. The acting, especially from Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Marlon Wayans, Messina, and Chris Tucker and Viola Davis are terrific. Was terrific. The soundtrack was incredible. Robert Richardson's cinematography was terrific. The editing was excellent. It's very well paced throughout. And it's also very funny, especially when it came to the humor, which felt witty and clever. It also has some brilliant production values and costume design since it feels like you're back in the 1980s, and the ending was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, overall was absolutely terrific, I meant. Overall, Air is one of the most well-acted, compelling, and highly entertaining films I've seen in 2023, and that's why it's a good way to start to kick off the list at number 20.
My number 19 is the first seal cinema on this list, and probably the most unconventional film you see here, and that is Inside. Now, a movie where a guy gets stuck in an apartment in of itself sounds boring, but director Vasilis K, sorry if I mispronounced it, turns it into a compelling character study exploring themes of art and isolation. And what helps the whole experience is Willem Dafoe giving the main role his all, as he always does. If you're sick of Hollywood doing the 90th remake sequel a superhero movie, films like this prove that there's still some creativity left in the world, and thus Inside is my number 19.
All right, number 19 on my list. Hold on. Let me. Crap. We're reaching a bit of technical difficulties here. Give me a second. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, number 19 on my list is a horror film, and it is easily the best horror film I've seen it this entire year. Taught to Me.
I haven't seen that one, but that one music track I honestly can't stop listening to.
Oh, it's fantastic. Taught to Me is one of the best horror films I've seen in a very long time. Since for the Rocka Brothers' first time directing a movie, I thought they knocked it out of the park with this one. Since this was such an unsettling yet powerful, chilling, and exhilarating experience, and that I'm never going to forget as time goes by. This is also one of those movies where it does a fantastic job tackling the subject of grief, guilt, and peer pressure, and I cannot help but tip my hat off to the Rocka Brothers for the way they executed and tackled those themes as well. The acting was fantastic. Sophia Wilde delivers one of the best and most riveting breakthrough performances I've seen in 2023 as Mia. Joe Bird was also fantastic as Riley. Miranda Otto also delivers such a terrific performance as well. Cornell Wilset's musical score is one of the best I've heard in the movie this year due to how powerful and haunting it felt. The cinematography was excellent because of how full of energy and style the camera work felt, while also keeping it grounded in reality. It's very well directed, very well written. The story felt chilling and well structured. The editing was terrific. It's also very well paced throughout. And since this is a horror film, I know what you're going to ask me. Is it scary? Oh, hell yes. Because when it comes to the horror elements of the film, it had me on the edge of my seat due to how real the tension felt and how they rely on tension to build up those scares, and instead of doing those cliche jump scares. And the use of practical effects as well as brilliant sound design added a nice touch to those horror elements as well. And without spoiling what happens, it also has one of the best endings I've seen in a movie in 2023. Overall, not only is Taught to Me one of the best horror movies I've seen in a long time, but it's also one of the most powerful and chilling films I've seen in 2023 as well. And that's why it's number 19 on the list.
My number 18 is a movie that not a lot of people have been talking about when it came out back in June, and thanks to a certain nomination at the Oscars, I'm glad it's gained the attention, and that's Flamin' Hot. This is a movie where the people who have seen it have claimed to be a generic cloud pleaser, but I was thoroughly entertained throughout its 99-minute runtime. Errol Longoria killed it in the directorial debut and keeping me engaged from the opening scene to the closing credits. And the ensemble cast alone makes this worth seeing, especially Jesse Garcia in the lead role. I know this has gotten a bit of controversy considering its questionable historical accuracy, but if you can enjoy Braveheart and The Greatest Showman in spite of the historical differences, I'm sure this will be an entertaining watch in my number 18.
At number 18, I have another A24 film on the list. And Søren mentioned it in his Blu-ray Showcase, and It is You Hurt My Feelings. You Hurt My Feelings is not only one of the funniest and most honest and entertaining films I've seen in 2023, but what makes this film also so special is how the director Nicole Holofcener did such an incredible job crafting the themes of honesty and white lies between relationships in a realistic and well-detailed manner, since it also explores how complicated relationships can be, how people sometimes go too far with the way people jump to the conclusions on others, all because of something they hear that's either out of context or lies, and how people express their feelings on some piece of media in a sincere and honest way without hurting one's feelings. And it honestly shows on why I really love this film so much. Nicole Holofcener did a wonderful job with the way she wrote and directed this film. The acting was wonderful, especially from Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who gives out one of her very best performances of her career as Beth. Tobias Menzies was also fantastic as Don. Michaela Watkins, Michaela Watkins, Owen Teague, and David Cross also delivered some great performances in the film as well. The musical score was excellent. The cinematography is fantastic. The editing was great. The pacing was very good. Yes, it is a slow burn pace, which will turn off some people, but it works for me because it fits the tone and realism that the film is trying to go for. And when I say that the film is funny, I mean it, because the humor in this film felt witty and clever, since I'm not going to get to what happens, but there were some line deliveries as well as some scenes shown in the film that had me laughing hysterically. And it also features one of my favorite endings I've seen in a movie in 2023. So overall, You Hurt My Feelings is one of the funniest and most entertaining and honest films I've seen in 2023, and that's why it is number 18 on the list.
My number 17 is yet another underappreciated gem on this list, and that is Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Even if this is just a cut-down version of the director's cut Ridley Scott wants to release down the line, unlike Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, this cut-down cut is still a tour de force. Throughout 157 minutes, I was consistently entertained and enthralled by the rise and fall of France's most infamous conqueror, held together by dedicated performances from Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby, as well as some of the most well-done production values of the year. But when it comes to vast and visceral battle sequences, they are something to behold, as they alone make it worth the price of admission. This is Ridley Scott's best film in a while, and I'm eager to see what he does next. As skeptical as I am with the idea of a Gladiator sequel this year, regardless, Napoleon is still my number 17 of this year.
I wish I can agree, man. I really wish I can agree. Number 17, Søren, you're going to probably disagree with me with this one, but man, number 17 was another film I gave a 9.5 out of 10 to originally, but now I bump it up to a 10 out of 10 because I honestly love this film. Number 17 is Bradley Cooper's Maestro. I honestly love this film. This was a great biographical romance drama involving the relationship between Leonard Bernstein and his wife Felicia. And how Bradley Cooper directed this movie was absolutely fantastic and nothing short of outstanding. And the screenplay that he and Josh Singer wrote was fantastic. The story had me emotionally invested throughout. I was emotionally invested in the story throughout, mainly in terms of how highly engaging it felt. The acting from Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan was fantastic. And not to mention, I love the chemistry between Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan. The music, oh my goodness, the music was fantastic. Especially in this one scene, like towards I think in at the beginning of the third act, this one scene literally reminded me of like I knew you would pull that Flurry hard, man. I love Flurry. Yeah. In terms of this one scene, it really reminded me of one of my favorite films of 2022, Tar. And while I still love Tar just a bit more, I still think Maestro is like one of my favorite films of the year. And the production values, the costume design, as well as the makeup was fantastic. And yeah, Søren, she gets way too much hate. Same thing with Starlight. And honestly, it also has one of my favorite endings I've seen in the movie in 2023. And the cinematography, and one more thing about the cinematography and editing, the cinematography was absolutely phenomenal. With the way they shot this in black and white and color, it was absolutely fantastic. And the editing was brilliant. And honestly, I thought it was a very well-paced film throughout. So yeah, I really loved Maestro. It may not be the best movie that it may not be the best movie that I've seen this year on the list, but in terms of like how it was, like how it looked, this is probably a masterclass in the technical stuff. And yeah, that's why it's number 17 on the list for me.
Number 16 is the Irish feel-good film of the year, Flora and Son. Eve Hewson delivers a breakthrough performance as she works up both Oren Kinlan and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and what holds them all together are the stellar songs that were somehow sung by the Academy. Oh, that's another snub I forgot to mention, High Life for Best Original Song. Anyways, if you like Sing Street from 2016, you'll like this movie, as it's my number 16.
Number 16, I just mentioned this. I just reviewed this one, so I'm going to try to make it brief, but it's The Teacher's Lounge. This was a great movie. This was a great film. This was a great study in power dynamics, with not only the themes of truth, justice, racism, respect, and children's rights being well executed, but how one accusation just destroys people and can like destroy people as well as society as well. And on top of it's very, very well written and screenplay. And on top of the film being well directed and well acted, it also had me on the edge of my seat with how much real tension there was in the film as well. And yes, I remember hearing about that, and I did kind of mention it on the podcast last time, but yeah, it was just not a good time to be a physical media person.
Hey, at least Australia still has Region A, and they can always outsource their Blu-rays from America.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. But yeah, overall, I found yes, we do, Ethan. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Again, I'm not going to repeat myself with this, but you get the point. But yeah, overall, The Teacher's Lounge was powerful, thrilling, and mesmerizing and thought provoking. It is number 16 on the list for me. It's not hard to see why this is nominated for Best International Feature, because this was fantastic.
I will say this, DC Marvel fan, Toy Story 5, I'm somewhat optimistic for, because keep in mind, we were all skeptical about Toy Story 4, but look how that movie turned out.
Yeah. It was still a great film, even despite being the weakest of the four. Even despite being the weakest of the four, it turned out to be the best animated film I saw that year.
Mine was Dragon 3, but this was pretty close. Anyways, number 15 is this year's John Wick. Outside of this year's John Wick Chapter 4, point is number 15 is Zizou. Story about this old prospector who gets his gold stolen by Nazis and ends up becoming a major hero in World War II is a compelling adventure thanks to stellar direction and brutal action sequences. The production values and music are great, as are the performances. I hope this gets a sequel ASAP, as this was a hell of a time to fill the number 15 spot.
You know, funny you mentioned John Wick Chapter 4, Søren, because that's what's at number 15 on my list.
Again, if I had a nickel, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't much, but it's rare that happened twice on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, not only do I feel that John Wick Chapter 4 is the best of the four movies, but this is easily one of the most highly entertaining and exhilarating films I've seen in 2023. What this movie succeeds at being is one hell of a roller coaster ride of an action flick filled with some of the most incredible action sequences I've ever seen in any of the John Wick movies, as well as a terrific third act that had me on the edge of my seat, wondering what was going to happen next. And it's one of those movies that grabs you and never lets you go until the final frame of the film. The action sequences are fantastic, especially with how they were directed and choreographed and edited and shot. And speaking of the directing, like the last three movies, this director did a fantastic job with the way he directed this movie, since not only do you see the vision and passion he had behind the camera, but the way he directs the actors as well as the action throughout the film is nothing short of astonishing. The acting was terrific. Keanu Reeves nails it once again as John Wick. Bill Skarsgård killed it as the villain. Donnie Yen was fantastic as Kane, while Lawrence Fishburne and the late Lance Reddick, rest in peace, by the way, and Ian McShane also delivers some terrific performances in the film as well. The soundtrack was great. The cinematography was fantastic. It's very well edited, especially with the action sequences. It's very well paced, even for a 169-minute movie. And without spoiling what happens, it also has what I consider to be one of the most unexpectedly powerful endings I've seen in a movie in 2023. So, yeah, John Wick Chapter 4 isn't just the best of the John Wick movies. It's also an action masterpiece and one of the most exhilarating and entertaining films I've seen this entire year. Easily the best of the four, and that's why it is number 15 on my list.
Number 14 is David Fincher's The Killer. Held together by one of Michael Fassbender's very best performances as an assassin traveling the world to kill those who ruined his life, is David Fincher's stellar direction, as evidenced by his tight editing, stunning cinematography, and a compelling screenplay that kept me engaged with Fassbender's narration, keeping us up to date with his thoughts and methods. While this isn't among Fincher's very best, it's more than worth a watch on Netflix in my number 14.
Number 14 on my list. Søren will probably mention this film in a little bit, and I really wanted to put this in the top 10 because of how much I love this film, but there were just 13 films that I just loved even more. This one is still a great film, though. Number 14 is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
You'll hear about it down the line.
Mm-hmm. This was a lovely and moving film. Not only is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret such a faithful adaptation of the book, but this is one of the most well-acted, delightful, beautiful, entertaining, relatable, and deeply moving films I've seen this entire year. Not only does the movie do such a fantastic job staying faithful to the book that it's based on, but this is one of those movies where it executed its themes involving popularity, puberty, and religion that not only felt realistic, but also very relatable. And for anybody in real life, whether you're a boy or a girl, whoever had to face those situations like Margaret did in the film, you will be able to relate to this as well, just like I did watching the whole thing. On top of the story being well-structured and highly engaging, as well as the film being well-directed and well-written, the acting was terrific, especially from Abby Ryder-Forston, who delivers one of the best breakthrough performances I've seen this entire year as Margaret, due to how raw, natural, and compelling her performance felt. Kathy Bates delivers one of the best supporting performances of the year as Sylvia. Rachel McAdams was fantastic as Barbara, while Benny Safdie and Al Graham also delivered some excellent performances in the film as well. The soundtrack was fantastic. The cinematography was terrific. The editing was great. It's very well paced throughout. The film's production values and costume design were terrific, since it feels like you're back in the early 1970s where the film's timeline takes place in. The film also has some terrific humor in it. And not only did the themes of popularity, puberty, religion, and family conflicts feel well executed, relatable, and real, but it also has one of the best endings I've seen in the movie in 2023 as well. That ending, really got me misty-eyed. That's how great that ending was, honestly. Yeah, overall, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's one of the most well-acted, delightful, beautiful, entertaining, relatable, and deeply moving films I've seen in 2023, and that's why it's number 14 on the list.
Number 13 is this year's Mitchell's vs. the Machines, where I liked it at first, but it just grew on me more and more ever since I walked out of that movie theater. And I just talked about it earlier, so number 13 is The Zone of Interest. While scenes like movies like about the Holocaust have been done to death, the message about anti-Semitism and mass genocide still reigns true today, especially considering what's happened to Palestine nowadays. Like I said before, Jonathan Glazer gave us a unique perspective on the events as we focus on the people behind the concentration camps and the vain efforts to ignore the Jewish people who literally die around them. Its Best Picture nomination is well warranted as it doesn't beat you over the head with its message, but instead lets you know visually and audibly the horrors of the situation. It truly is a work of art, and it more than earns a spot on my list, albeit late than never. Hence my number 13.
I agree. I agree, by the way. Excuse me. I agree, by the way, that it's the best movie about the Holocaust, but The Zone of Interest is definitely up there as one of the best.
I will say that's the best, but my personal favorite is Life is Beautiful.
That's a great film too. All right, number 13 on the list. Okay. All right, number 13. I'm still baffled that this movie didn't get any nominations, and I'm still baffled that the studios did a poor job. Like I'm still baffled at how like unsuccessful like its awards campaign for the film was because I thought this was one of the most powerful dramas I've seen in 2023. Number 13 is The Iron Claw. My God, The Iron Claw was such a powerful experience. This movie was an incredible movie. This was an incredible film based on the life of Kevin Von Erich and his father Fritz, and how Fritz pushed him and his brothers too far, all because Fritz wanted his boys to keep winning. And this was also a great movie that also shows on that also does a fantastic job exploring the theme of toxic masculinity, especially when it came to the character Fritz. All because he pushed his stunts way too far, all because he wanted to keep winning, and his ego and his pride and ego destroyed the family. And that's like let me rephrase that. That's like that's like toxic masculinity done right. Yeah, I know, it's just bullshit. And sadly, the reason for it was because I think the reason why it didn't get any nominations was because the campaign for the awards campaign for it, I think, was just unsuccessful, unfortunately. But that's just like a theory. I'm not sure, but regardless, this is a great. It is not an easy watch, but man, isn't an experience that people need to see. The acting, especially from Zac Efron, was fantastic. Jeremy Allen White and Harris Dickinson are also fantastic in the film. McCallany, who plays Fritz in the film, was fantastic. Remember how I stated earlier that you hate the character for. Remember how I stated earlier with another film I'm about to mention on how you hate the character because of what he did. But the performance was so powerful that this is one of those characters you love to hate. Well, the Iron Claw is exactly that with Fritz, with the character of Fritz. Fritz is such a despicable father. But man, how Holt managed to perform that character performing that character is nothing short of outstanding. And like I said before, this is one of those characters you love to hate. On top of the film's excellent cinematography, soundtrack, editing, and pacing, the wrestling sequences, holy shit, they are powerful. Like, especially with how they were choreographed, edited, and shot and directed. Wow. And I'm not going to give away what happens towards the end of the film, but by the time the film ended, by the time there was a scene involving like something, I'm not going to give away what happens, and I'd rather not say since it's a very sensitive topic. But man, what happened like almost towards the end of the film, like had me on the edge of had me speechless, and it left me and my mom, who I saw it with, by the way, it had me and my mom like in tears, like after we saw the film. Yeah, overall, the Iron Claw is one of the most powerful films I've seen in 2023, and it is easily deserving of the number 13 spot on the list. I would put it higher, but it's not quite an easy film for me. But the thing is that its rewatchability is like it depends on the rewatchability for me. Like that one scene was just even thinking about it. Like I feel like I'm getting tears down my eyes for a bit. But it is a wonderful film. Please check it out if you haven't already. Please.
Number 12 is Past Lives. The story about childhood friends who find each other after decades apart. It's told beautifully, thanks to not just silly songs, emotional play, but also the performances of Gray Lee and Teo Yo, who ought to get attention in their careers after this movie, which is why Past Lives is my number 12.
Number 12, another film that Søren's going to probably disagree with me on, but it is the best Netflix movie I've seen in 2023. May, December.
I'm not saying a fucking word.
Okay, so this is not an easy watch. It is not an easy watch due to some of the things that might be considered discomforting and unsettling to mainstream audiences. But I found May, December to be one of the most powerful and thought-provoking films I've seen in 2023. It's one of those movies that also challenges its viewers with some open interpretation with these following questions. What makes Gracie, played by Julianne Moore, commit such a heinous crime by having an affair with a 13-year-old? And why did she do it? All the acting was fantastic, especially from Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman, who both delivered some of their finest performances they gave out in their career. And Charles Melton was absolutely phenomenal in this film. The fact he wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actor is honestly a crime. Because what makes his performance one of the year's very best is how powerful and heartbreaking it felt, especially with how you really feel for his character Joe because of what happened to him during his 23-year relationship he had with Gracie. Granted, the movie doesn't make you feel sympathy for his character because of some of the immature things he does, but you understand why he ended up being like this. Like, I'm not gonna get into more of the spoilers, but once you see the film, you know what I'm talking about. He also felt trapped, which was why the themes of self-reflection and manipulation felt well executed, and Todd Haynes also did a wonderful job with the way he directed this film. Every time I talk about a movie that we have a disagreement on, I feel like that's the appropriate picture to describe Søren, of how Søren feels whenever I talk about a movie that like he doesn't love as much as I did. But again, art is subjective, so as I stated before. And let me tell you, the screenplay was fantastic. Like, like I said, not just with the way she construct the writer Sammy Burt's constructed the themes, but with how she constructed the characters. They feel fleshed out. They feel fleshed out, and it's very well directed, very well paced throughout. The musical score was brilliant. The cinematography was terrific. It's very well edited throughout. And what also amazed me about this movie was that during during the first act of the film, it really does feel like you're watching like a comedy film for a bit because of some of the cheesy lines they throw in the film. But then the way Todd Haynes pulls the rug by making you watching a suspense like a psychological drama is another reason why I found like the tone to be very, very consistent. But please do not confuse like May December as a comedy, because it's not a comedy. There's a couple lines that do come across as comedic, but it's not a comedy.
Try telling that to the Golden Globes.
But yeah, May December was absolutely one of the most mesmerizing and powerful films. It was absolutely one of the most mesmerizing and thought-provoking movies I've seen in 2023, and is easily my favorite Netflix film of the year. And that's why May December is number 12 on my list.
Number 11 is the highest grossing film last year, and it's not hard to see why, and that's Barbie.
You know what? That's my number 11 as well.
I was one of the only people who knew this was going to be something given by director Greg Gerwig and co-writer Noah Baumbach. And thankfully they more than delivered, as this is sure to be a delight for both kids and adults. While kids will be entertained by the misadventures of Ryan Gosling and more than Oscar snub Margot Robbie, as well as the production values and music, adults will appreciate the screenplay as much as the Lego Movie, as it knows the balance between exploring the identity of the toy brand as well as the character development given to the characters. This is a definite crowd-pleasing adventure, which more than earns the number 11 spot.
Yeah, Søren. Yeah, and I agree with Søren when what he said about Barbie and why I feel it's one of the best films of the year. Oh no, wait. Actually, Barbie's number 10 on the list, but you know what? I might as well explain why this is on the list anyway, since I really love this one. Not only is Barbie one of the funniest movies I've seen in 2023, but it's also one of the most whimsical, empowering, and highly entertaining films I've seen this entire year, since this is one of those movies where I was smiling throughout and having the time of my life with how funny and entertaining the whole thing felt, and how clever and intelligent with the way the movie handled its themes of existentialism and self-discovery. And like Søren, I was like one of the more optimistic people who was like looking forward to seeing this film. And yeah, my God, not only did this movie deliver my expectations, but it not only did the movie exceed my expectations, but it just blew me away. It just blew me away with how deep some of the themes are. Some of the themes are in the film, like involving existentialism and self-discovery. The acting was terrific, especially from Margot Robbie, who was wonderful as Barbie. Ryan Gosling was brilliant as Ken. American Ferrara was also great as Gloria, and Michael Cera Kate McKinnon, Issa Rae, Alexandra Shipp, Emma Mackey, Simu Liu, although he's not in the film that much, but that's besides the point. Ariana Greenblatt, Rhea Perlman, and heck, even Will Ferrell all turned in great performances as well. The soundtrack was great. It's very well directed, very well written. The story was fantastic. It's very well paced throughout. The cinematography was great. I mean, the cinematography was terrific. And when I say that the film is funny, I really mean it, because the amount of satire and jokes they threw in the film felt so clever, where it had me laughing hysterically, especially in the third act. No spoilers, by the way, with how crazy and insane it was, and in a good way, to the point where I was laughing so hard I thought I was going to pass out. And not only did the movie have one of my favorite endings I've seen in the movie this entire year, but what blew me away about this movie was how fantastic the production values and costume design are. How the production team designed Barbie Land is nothing short of mind blowing, since it really makes you feel like you're actually in that place. And I am so happy that I am really happy that it's been nominated for best costume design as well as best production design, because this absolutely deserved it. And you know, one last thing I want to mention, for those saying that this movie is like one of those men like women bashing men pictures, that's not what the film is about. This movie is making fun of both sides of the gender, both men and women, and how flawed both genders can be. And also, this movie is more about the expectations versus reality type of films. So yeah, that's what Barbie succeeds at being, and that's why it works for me. Yeah, yeah, and I'm not saying you have to love the film. You have to love the film, but I'm just saying the reasons why it works for me. So, and why I feel like the controversy, like the backlash and controversy over the film was just like why I feel the controversy and backlash over the film is stupid. Like, and this is honestly at a point where I hate, what I don't like is how people sometimes hate on a movie just because it's popular, and that to me is just completely asinine. Like, you don't have to love a movie. You don't have to love a movie, but give legitimate reasons for it. Don't say you hate a movie because it's popular. That's not right. That's not a legitimate criticism. Like, give reasons. Like if you don't like Barbie, that's fine. But don't say you hate the movie because it's popular. Because it's popular and because it's like women bashing men. One of those women bashing men films. That's not what the film is at all. Anyway, Barbie is one of the funniest and most whimsical, empowering, and highly entertaining movies I've seen in 2023, and that's why it is Søren's number 11 and my number 10 and my number 10. Now, as for my number 11, I had a hard time figuring this out on what my number 11 was going to be because it was either going to be like Anatomy of a Fall or American Fiction, but I decided this would be number 11 on the list. Let me hold on. Let me go to my profile for a bit. I decided this would be number 11 on the list. Number 11 is American Fiction. I absolutely love this film. This is absolutely one of the. Oh no! Wait. I'm sorry. Yeah. Number 11 is American Fiction. I did mention this before, and I might as well mention it one more time. Oh no! Wait. No, wait. I'm sorry. Actually, number 11 is actually Anatomy of a Fall. Yeah, number 11 is Anatomy of a Fall. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, what makes Anatomy of a Fall one of the best and most compelling courtroom dramas I've seen in a long time is how, on paper, this could have been one of those courtroom dramas where it relies so much on cliches you've seen in other films before, but by challenging its viewers into giving out their own answer on this ambiguous and mysterious question whether Sandra really did really did kill her husband or not, while also giving us some subtle hints and clues to make you question some things, even if you might have heard them. This absolutely makes it a thrilling experience that had me on the edge of my seat throughout. And I can't help but applaud Justine Triet for the way she executed the whole thing. And speaking of Justine Triet, she did a wonderful job with the way she wrote and directed this film. The acting was brilliant. Sandra Hüller is fantastic as Sandra, and this is one of the best and most riveting performances I've seen from a lead actress in 2023. Milo Mikado Graner also delivers a riveting breakthrough performance as Daniel, and this might be the best child performance I've seen since Woody Norman from Come On, Come On. The cinematography was terrific, and even the dog named Messi was also fantastic as Snoop. The cinematography was terrific. The editing was fantastic. Even for a 150-minute movie, I was never bored, and that's thanks to how very well paced the film felt throughout. And once we also get to the courtroom halfway through the film, those scenes had me on the edge of my seat due to how captivating, compelling, and thrilling they felt. And the themes of morality, resentment, unfaithfulness, and betrayal felt very well executed. And like I said before, although we do get a conclusion, and without spoiling what happens, it also has one of my favorite endings I've seen in the movie in 2023. See, this is what happens when I don't have a script. But what are you gonna do? Anyway, Anatomy of a Fall features a riveting performance by Sandra Hüller, and it's one of the most captivating, compelling, and riveting courtroom dramas I've ever seen, and that's why it's number 11 on the list. And Søren mentioned Barbie, which was his number 11 and my number 10, so he might as well explain his number 10 and number 9.
Number 10 is this generation's Die Hard, that being John Woo's Silent Night. In a generation where most action films are filled to the brim with shaky cam and shady dialogue, this movie proves that through visual storytelling, terrific and brutal action sequences, and a brilliant performance from Joel Kinnaman, he's still God even in his 70s. I hope this movie gets more attention in the coming years as the next Christmas cult classic, as well as a movie in my top 5, as Silent Night is my number 10.
As for number 9?
My number 9 is Frankenstein for Weirdos, that being Poor Things. A movie of this caliber could have easily backfired in the wrong hands, but Yorgos Lanthimos made it work with Tony McNamara's terrific screenplay, as well as some fantastic production values. The cast is all phenomenal, especially Mark Ruffalo, as he was to work off of one of Emma Stone's very best performances. It's both horny, tragic, and amusing, and it's an easy contender for the number 9 spot.
And let me just say this right now. The film's at 11, 9, 8, and 7 could change easily. I mean, Barbie will still be at number 10 on my list, but the films at 11, 9, 8, and 7 could change. Like I already explained Anatomy of a Fall, and I might as well explain my number 9 pick. But until then, these are just the personal picks I feel that are the best of the best. But so just take what I said with a grain of salt. But anyway, number 9 on my list. Number 9 is American Fiction. This was a brilliant satire on the stereotypes, as well as a humanistic drama featuring Jeffrey Wright in one of his best performances he's given out in his career, as well as a very sharp and well-written screenplay by Cord Jefferson, who also did a terrific job with the way he directed this film. The soundtrack is brilliant. The cinematography was brilliant. And on top of the film being a terrific satire on the stereotypes in media, I also loved how it's also a humanistic story and involving like the writer's family life as well. It felt real and like heartwarming. And on top of that, it also has one of the best endings I've seen in the movie in 2023. So yeah, I really love this movie. American Fiction is funny, clever, sharp, and highly entertaining, and that's why it is number 9 on the list for me. Oh, and to answer your question, that's a tough call. I mean, the first Alvin and Chipmunks film wasn't all that bad, but then the sequels were like absolute dot shit. But if I'm gonna be honest, I have to say Tom and Jerry.
Yeah. Number 8 is a franchise that's some.
And the less we say about that film, the better.
Yeah. Number 8 is a franchise that somehow continues to amaze with the 7th installment, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Even if the first couple movies failed to impress, this is a franchise that has gotten better and better with each passing movie. And while this isn't quite as masterful as Fallout, it's still a tightly paced and written action thriller about the dangers of AI with some of the best action sequences you'll see in a long time. It's safe to say I'm more than excited for the next movie, but for now, this is a mission worth continuing to accept and worth the number 8 spot.
Number 8, Søren mentioned it on the list, and it's the Zone of Interest. Now, we reviewed this film before. We did review this film earlier on, so I'm going to try to make it brief. This is such a powerful and mesmerizing portrait of the banality of evil that not only has some of the best sound effects design I've ever heard in a movie in 2023, but also showcases the horrors that some evil people are capable of. Although you really see the family doing their mundane tasks, what makes it haunting is the fact that you actually hear the sounds of gunshots being fired, as well as officers yelling and people screaming in the back in those camps. It not only left me frightened, but also had me on the edge of my seat as soon as those sounds were heard. And how the sound effects designers and editors managed to capture the horrors was nothing short of outstanding. And without spoiling what happens, it also has one of the most haunting endings I've seen in the movie in 2023. And on top of the film being well directed, the film's production values and costume design being terrific, and the film having a terrific script and a fantastic story, and a story that felt well structured and engaging. The acting was also terrific, especially from Christian Friedel and Sandra Hüller, who both of them delivered terrific performances in the film. Like I said, you hate these characters for what they do, since one is a Nazi officer and the other is the wife. It's the wife, and how they brainwash their kids and stuff. Their stuff, but excuse me. But how they perform their characters in the film is nothing short of outstanding. With how powerful it was, that this is one of those situations where you love to hate these characters. And without spoiling what happens, it also has one of the most haunting endings I've ever seen in the movie in 2023. Overall, I loved the Zone of Interest. It was powerful, it was haunting, it was mesmerizing, and given the recent times we're living in, right, given what's been going on recently, it couldn't have come out at a better time. And it's another reason why I'm glad this film why I'm happy this film exists, and that's why it's number 8 on the list.
Number 7 is the most financially underappreciated film on this list, Are You There, Guys? Me, Margaret. This movie is a charming dive into a young teenager's life as he has to deal with puberty and the clashing of religions. And unlike a lot of Christian movies that come across as cheap and preachy, this movie is actually selling its message and doesn't bash its morals over your head. Flex, take fucking notes.
Yeah, really.
If you hadn't seen this movie, do yourself a favor and do so, and see why I feel this was completely snubbed out of Oscar season, hence the number 7 spot.
All right. And you know what? I actually lied. the next 7 films stay intact, but it's the films at 11, 9, and 8 that I'm gonna have so much trouble figuring out. But that is subject to change. But yeah, you get the point. Anyway, number 7 on the list. Now, number 7 and 6 are both animated films, and they're both some of the best that I've seen in 2023. The first one we're going to take a look at, the first one I'm going to talk about is the triumphant return of this one particular director who has made, I feel, made one of the best movies he's done in his career. Number 7 is Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron. Not only is The Boy and the Heron a triumphant return for Hayao Miyazaki after his last movie, The Wind Rises, was released over 10 years ago. Jesus fuck, man. But this is absolutely one of those breathtaking, exhilarating, and deeply moving animated films I've ever seen. And what I loved about this movie was that this is a brilliant film that not only did a fantastic job covering the subjects involving covering the themes involving family and grief, but also how nothing lasts forever. And that's another reason why I feel this is higher on the list, because of the way, not just with the way because of the way they really tackle that theme very, very well. And oh boy, and let me tell you, this movie has some of the most glorious and beautiful animation I've ever seen in a not just in a Studio Ghibli movie, but also in an animated movie in general. The animation is just nothing short of stunning. From not only the way they animated the characters, from not only with the way it's beautifully animated in 2D, but with how stunning its visuals are too. The voice acting was brilliant. Now, keep in mind, I saw the English dub of the film, but let me tell you, I only saw the English dub of the film, so I'm only going to comment on the English dubbing. But let me tell you, the voice acting was brilliant. Luca Padovan did a brilliant job voicing Mahito Maki. Robert Pattinson was brilliant as the gray heron. And on top of that, you also have brilliant vocal performances by Gemma Chan, Christian Bale, Florence Pugh, William Dafoe, Dave Bautista, and even the guy that played Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill. Yep. But yeah, and the score, the musical score was beautiful. It's very well edited, very well directed, very well written. The story felt well structured and highly.
I couldn't resist.
Oh my god! I still have not seen that, and I still refuse to this day. But holy shit, that was fucking hilarious. Oh my god. Yeah, and it also has one of the most beautiful endings I've ever seen in the movie in 2023 too. So, yeah, I love The Boy and the Heron very much. It's breathtaking, it's exhilarating, and it's deeply moving, and that's why it is number 7 on the list. And also, can I just say how it felt so good to see a 2D animated film in theaters? Seriously. I can. Thank you. Because seeing that was just brilliant. Anyway.
Number 6. Remember when January was a complete joke in the film industry? Well, out of nowhere came the spiritual successor to Searching, that being Missing. Much like its predecessor, this movie uses its limits to its advantages by giving us outstanding characters and more twists and turns than the average Interstate, all within the limits of a laptop screen. I feel like this and Searching should be required viewing in terms of visual storytelling, as Missing is my number 6.
Um, before I move on, I'm sorry, but I still cannot get over that picture and Earwig and the Witch. Like, she literally looks like she's so annoyed at everything that like went on in the film. like oh yeah, what oh yeah, whatever. Whatever.
That movie is just like The Room of Studio Ghibli.
oh yeah, whatever. Whatever. I'm seeing shit that I know I shouldn't be seeing. Whatever. All right. I'm sorry. I can't help it. Oh my god. Okay. All right. Number 6. The best animated film of the year for me. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, you knew this was coming. You knew 100% that this was coming. To say that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is one of the best animated films I've seen in my life would be a big understatement, because not only did I love this just as much as the first film, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is one of the most beautifully animated, breathtaking, and exhilarating animated films I've ever seen in my life. This is one of those movies where you're immediately hooked in due to how not only well-structured and highly engaging the story felt, but also due to how exhilarating and beautiful the animation in this one felt too. I'm dead serious. The animation is stunning. Like if there were words to describe the animation in this film, if there were other words to describe it other than astonishing, it would be stunning. Other than stunning, it would be astonishing and spectacular. On top of the story being feeling gigantic yet highly engaging and well structured, and the screenplay and the film having excellent screenplay and directing, the voice acting was also terrific. Shamik Moore once again nailed it as the voice of Miles Morales. Haley Steinfeld was fantastic as the voice of Gwen Stacy. Brian Tyree Henry, Jake Johnson, Jason Schwartzman, Issa Rae, Karan Soni, Greta Lee, Danielle Kaluuya, Mahershala Ali, and Oscar Isaac also delivered terrific vocal performances as well. Daniel Pemberton's musical score was fantastic. The editing was terrific. It's very well paced throughout. And not only does the film have some good humorous moments, but the action sequences are a lot of fun and breathtaking and exhilarating to watch. How those sequences were animated and edited is really something to behold due to how beautifully animated they were. And the ending, like, it's basically like Dune Part 1, where it not only left me hungry for more, but also excited to see Beyond the Spider-Verse, which I know it's gonna take a long time to make. But you know what? Better to take. I'm sorry. Better to take your time with how you're going to develop the movie than just like rush it. Oh yeah, and the Trolls Band. I'm only going to mention him once and then never again. But to you, Trolls Band fan together, to 2001 for saying that, fuck you. Spider-Verse is a great film, and Trolls Band Together is shit. Deal with it. That's all I need to say about this cocksucker. And normally I would respect people's opinions, but since Trolls Band Together fan 2001 went after mine, I might as well get back at him by saying by saying that. I hope you all understand. And trust me, that is the only time I'm ever going to mention this cocksucker ever again. Anyway, not only is Spider-Man Across... Overall, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is one of the most beautifully animated, breathtaking, and exhilarating animated films I've ever seen, and that is why it is not only the best animated film I've seen in 2023, but also number 6 on my list. I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse to come out. Søren. Always make...
My number 5 is hands down the best live-action superhero movie of the year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. In a year where most of the superhero movies have ranged from mediocre to decent, James Gunn proves that all you need to make a good movie in a genre is well-written characters, writing that knows a good balance between comedy and tragedy, stellar music and visual effects, as well as the best performance of most of the actors and their respective characters. After this movie, I can only wish the best of luck to James Gunn after he tries to save DC, but for now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is my number 5.
God damn it, Søren. Oh my god. That's more like it. Woo! Okay. Number 5 on my list. All right. Holy shit, we're in the top 5 already? Wow, what a coincidence. Okay. Number 5 on the list. Number 5 on the list. Søren mentioned it on his list, and mentioned it at number 10 on his list, and oh my god, this is absolutely unlike anything I've ever seen in the movie. And this is another brilliant film from this particular director that I really love very much. Number 5 is Poor Things. Now, granted, his films are a required taste, and it will not be for everyone. But oh man, I loved every minute of this movie. Poor Things. There's no denying that Poor Things is the most bonkers movie I've seen in 2023. Yet it's one of the most powerful, seductive, mesmerizing, and exhilarating movies I've seen this entire year as well. And on top of the story feeling well structured and highly engaging, as well as the film being well directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, and the film having a fantastic screenplay, the acting was also brilliant as well. Emma Stone absolutely delivers another landmark performance in her career as Bella Baxter. What's amazing about her performance and why her character was so brilliantly written is that she's basically what she would look like if Frankenstein was a woman and she was horny. Yes, and all the other acting is terrific too. Mark Ruffalo, like, this is up there with Spotlight as being one of his very best performances he's given out in his career. He looked like he was just having a ball playing Duncan Wedderburn, and my God, it definitely shows with this one. And Yes, yes, that's what I loved about the cinematography in Poor Things. A good how not only is the good majority of the film in black and white, which I agree very much was added a very nice touch, but even a very nice touch, especially when it came to some of the color elements in the film they also showed in the film. But the musical score was also fantastic, and oh yeah, and I forgot to mention the other actors in the film too are also fantastic, including Willem Dafoe, Christopher Abbott, and Jared Carmichael. And this movie is not afraid. What I also loved about this movie is that it's not afraid at being bonkers as well as fucking horny. It's not afraid at being that. And that's what worked about the humor in the film. Like, man, talk about something I've never seen before, as well as something that, as well as some crazy shit that I've never seen before too. Like, oh my god, when I saw some of the insane stuff they threw in the film, I had me laughing. It had me laughing hysterically throughout. Like, this was easily one of the best times I've had at the movies all year. Oh my god. You have no idea. You have no idea how much I was dying of laughter. Yeah, I just loved this movie very much. And speaking of the screenplay, what worked about the screenplay in the film was witty dialogue, excellent character development, and themes of desire, identity, and power feeling well executed. The musical score is fantastic. And as mentioned before, Robbie Ryan's cinematography was absolutely mesmerizing and one of the very best I've seen in the movie this entire year. Most of the majority of the film is in black and white, but it is a nice touch. It is a nice touch to the way the film looked. The editing was brilliant. It's very well paced throughout. It has excellent production values and costume design, excellent visual effects, and amazing practical effects and makeup. And the ending is one of the best I've seen in the movie in 2023, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, Poor Things, I really loved it. Poor Things was absolutely powerful, seductive, mesmerizing, and exhilarating. And although I still think the favorite is unironically my favorite movie that Yorgos Lanthimos has done, Poor Things is nevertheless one of his very best movies, and I am so happy it won the Golden Lion Award because it absolutely deserved it, and this absolutely deserved to be my top 5 as well. And I want to say this is one more thing as well for Emma Stone. Although another actress I'm gonna mention very soon is my pick to win Best Actress, I'm not gonna complain if Emma Stone ends up winning Best Actress because this is another landmark performance in her career, as I mentioned before, and this is unlike anything I've ever seen her in, and that's really saying a lot. So, yeah, Poor Things overall is a good way to kick off my top 5. Yep, it's number 5 on my list.
Number 4 is the next Christmas classic alongside Silent Night, this time being The Holdovers.
The Holdovers is also my number 4.
Director Alexander Payne and writer David Harrington give us this funny yet emotional story about the relationship between the down-on-his-luck teacher and a student who needs the support he can get during the holidays. Featuring a stellar cast including Paul Giamatti and Dominic Sessa, this is a movie that's sure to delight not only awards season this year, but also potentially becoming a staple among film fans every Christmas, which is why The Holdovers is my number 4.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's also number 4 on my list. Not only is The Holdovers a brilliant return to form for Alexander Payne, but it's also the funniest movie I've seen in 2023, as well as one of the most deeply moving films of the year. Since this is one of those movies where from scene 1 all the way through the end of the film, not only did it have me smiling and laughing throughout, but it also moved me with how wholesome and heartwarming the whole thing felt to the point where it made me feel so good about life and the friends and family I have in my life as well. And I can't help but give a huge round of applause to Alexander Payne and writer David Hemmingson for the way they executed the whole film. Watching the movie, it really reminded me so much of some classic films like Peter Bogdanovich's masterpieces, The Last Picture Show, and some other Christmas classics like A Christmas Story, for example, and It's a Wonderful Life. And you know what? That's another thing I loved about this movie as well. The technical aspects, the way it was shot and edited to make it look like you're actually watching like a film from the 70s. That's what I loved about the movie, and that's what I loved about the film, especially with the way they edited and shot the film. And the performances are absolutely spectacular. The acting was absolutely spectacular. Paul Giamatti delivers one of his very best performances of his career as the teacher, and his performance felt so riveting and raw that he's honestly my pick to win Best Actor at the Oscars. Devine Joy Randolph also, I mean, it's between him and Cillian Murphy. I still have to decide on that, but I'm pretty certain that Paul Giamatti might be my pick to win. Devine Joy Randolph also deserves to win Best Supporting Actress because her performance as Mary Lamb also felt raw and powerful. But the actor that surprised me the most was Dominic Sessa. I'm not kidding when I say that this is the best breakthrough performance I've seen from an actor in 2023. What's so special about Sessa's performance and the way he performs as Angus is how raw, real, and sympathetic his character felt, even despite being a troubled student, that it makes you want to go up to the screen and give him a hug, especially with, no spoilers by the way it reveals on why he's like this later on as the film progresses. And it makes me look forward. And it also makes me look forward to seeing what Dominic Sessa is going to be in next, because this kid has a bright future ahead of him. And I mean that 100%. It's well directed, well written. The soundtrack was excellent. The production values and costume design are both fantastic, since it feels like you're also back in the 70s. And as for the comedy in the film, it felt sharp, witty, and hysterical to the point where I was laughing hysterically at the scenes that were presented as being funny. And without spoiling what happens, it also has one of the best endings I've seen in the movie in 2023. Yeah, overall, yeah, I'm well aware that it might be too early to predict this, but I agree with Søren that I honestly feel that this movie, years from now, this movie is going to be remembered as being the next Christmas classic, because The Holdovers is not only a brilliant return to form for Alexander Payne, but it's also one of the funniest, coziest, and most deeply moving films I've seen in 2023. And that's why The Holdovers is Søren and I's number 4. And that's why The Holdovers is Søren and I's number 4.
Number 3 is by far the best animated film of the year, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This movie holds a candle to the first one as it retains the same colorful animation, fast-paced action, outstanding characters, and stellar writing the series has been known for, while also being bigger, darker, and more emotional than it's ever been. Much like Mission Impossible, this movie left me wanting more and eager to watch the next movie as soon as possible to see how it all concludes, as Spider-Verse 2 is my number 3.
Number 3 on the list. Number 3 on my list was my original number 1. On the first 6 months of 2023. And my original number 1 is, and you already know what it is. It is also the best A24 film I've seen in 2023. Past Lives. Man, talk about a movie that was such a deeply moving and emotional experience. Past Lives is one of the most deeply moving films I've ever seen, and definitely one of the very best romantic dramas I've seen in my entire life as well. What makes Past Lives so special is that not only is this yet another one of those movies where it shows on how complicated relationships can be, but it's also one of those movies where it shows like the joys of like childhood friends and how it could be hard to say goodbye to a childhood best friend you know and love, whether he or she is from a different country or a different state. And when you and that childhood friend who you haven't seen in years finally reunite, it feels like a wonderful reunion between you and that friend. And that's why I can't help but applaud Celine Dion. Celine Song. I'm sorry. My brain could be scrambled up. My mind could be scrambled up sometimes with the names. That's why I can't help but applaud Celine Song for the way she crafted such a fascinating romantic drama that feels real and deeply moving. The acting, I'm dead serious. Celine Song did a wonderful job with the way she wrote and directed this film. The story felt well structured and highly engaging. The acting was brilliant. Greta Lee was fantastic as Nora Moon. Teo Yu also gives out one of the year's very best performances as Hae Sung. And John Magaro, who, if you remember from The Big Short and Carol and First Cow, is also in this movie. And he was also brilliant as Arthur. And the chemistry between Greta and Lee was fantastic since it makes you believe that the characters they play in the film actually are childhood friends who haven't seen each other in years. I found the musical score to be haunting and beautiful. The cinematography was terrific, and so was the editing in the movie. It's very well paced throughout. And what surprised me about the movie was how I wasn't afraid of throwing in some moments of good humor. And what I also loved about this movie is how unpredictable it was as well. Without spoiling what happens, you would think as a romantic drama, Past Lives would go a predictable route, right? Nope, not on Celine Song nor A24's watch. And without spoiling what happens once again, it also has one of the most heartbreaking and emotional yet deeply moving endings I've seen in a movie in 2023. It was so heartbreaking and emotional that I honestly thought tears were going to come down my eyes. That's how beautiful and emotional that the ending was. And wholesome, I should say, too. Overall, Past Lives is one of the best romantic dramas I've seen in a long time, and one of the most deeply moving films I've ever seen as well. And that is why Past Lives is number 3 on my list. Well done, Celine Song. And one last thing about Celine Song before you talk about your number 2, Søren. Apparently, she has another film on the way called Materialist, and A24 will be distributing that film as well. Sign me up! I cannot wait to see that.
My number 2 was my number 1 for the longest time until a certain movie bumped it down. It's a movie that needs way more love than it's been getting, and it's Tetris. In an era where most biopics have been kind of samey and really stale, this movie kept me on my toes and engaged throughout with its stellar direction, great acting, and trippy as hell visuals. The characters are all fun, the music is a blast to sit through, and it's hands down a better tribute to Nintendo than the averageness that was the Mario movie. I thought this was going to be number 1 for the longest time, but part of me knew that something even bigger would soon take its spot. And Nick, I know you still have your number 2 to go over.
Well, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. You explain your number 1, and then I'll go ahead and chip in with number 2 and number 1 as well, because both of these films are 3-hour epics, and they're both fascinating movies that I feel are going to be remembered for years to come. So,
and
stage is all yours.
We have our first in FilmBrony podcast history, because for the first time in terms of the best film of the particular year,
we have a tie. No BS, we have a tie.
I mean, I know I have said that back in 2021, I pretty much have Zack Snyder's Justice League and Denise vs. Doom Part 1 together as the best film that year, but that was decided after the fact. And I know in my video, I only had one of those movies listed, but the fact of the matter is, the other movie I'm going to mention grew on me more and more than it has the more I thought about it. And let's be honest, they're both pretty similar. Both are 3-hour historical epics about two of the most influential events in American history, led by two of the biggest casts that two of the most famous filmmakers could ever round up. And they're both competing for the top prize at the Oscars, and rightfully so. And without further ado, my pick for the best movie of the year is a tie between Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer and Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, in terms of Oppenheimer, I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said, but I'll say it anyway. For a movie that's 75% people standing around in rooms and talking, both Chris Nolan and the cast made sure to keep the audience engaged, especially considering the cast is beyond phenomenal, with standouts being Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. It's got a plethora of actors who you wouldn't expect, like Matt Damon, Casey Affleck, Kenneth Branagh, one of the Safdies, not John Connor, Mary Poppins, Gary Oldman, and Joss from Drake and Josh. The visuals are outstanding, from the production values to the cinematography to the explosions themselves. It's an auditory experience. It's music to the ears, as the sound effects and Ludwig Göransson's musical score make it worth seeing on the biggest screen imaginable. I'll just say it. Chris Nolan was due for an Oscar ever since Memento 20 years ago, and if he doesn't have it in his hands this year, then there's something truly wrong with society. Now, as for Killers of the Flower Moon, it's easy to see why even in his 80s, Martin Scorsese continues to be one of the biggest advocates of cinema working today. The story about the conflict between the Osage Nation and a murderous businessman greedy for their oil, and the man torn between two of them is both a tragic and emotional one. You really feel the size and scale of this event, yet you don't even feel the 3.5-hour runtime half the time. The cinematography and production values are superb, and the music is phenomenal, but an epic like this is only as good as it casts. Jesse Plemons and Brendan Fraser are both standouts, but they're nothing compared to the three main actors. Leonardo DiCaprio, who brilliantly captures the dilemma between protecting his Osage family and living up to his uncle's legacy. Robert De Niro, who continues to be as cold and chilling as ever, and Lily Gladstone, who acted her ass off as she witnesses her own people.
She needs to win.
As she witnesses her own people getting slaughtered left and right, and goes against all odds to ensure justice is served for the greater good. Whatever the future holds for Scorsese's career, this movie proves that it's a career unlike any other, and that is why both Oppenheimer and The Killers of the Flower Moon are the best films of 2023.
All right, so, yep, I'm going to mention, yes, numbers 2 and number 1 are both the same films that Søren mentioned. Now, I had trouble figuring out which of the two that I love both of these films so much, but I had so much trouble figuring out which of the two films were going to be my number 1, my number 2 and number 1. So I ended up for the first time for the second year in a row, I actually flipped a coin. Like, heads was Oppenheimer and tails was Killers of the Flower Moon, and after a best of 2 out of 3 situation, here's the result. You guys have been waiting for this, and here it is. Number 2 on the list. You knew this was going to be on the list, and it's another masterpiece from my all-time favorite filmmaker, Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. To say that it's one of the year's very best films would be a huge understatement. Killers of the Flower Moon is another masterful addition to Martin Scorsese's filmography, since what he has crafted is a powerful, gripping, compelling, exhilarating, and informative Western film involving greed, betrayal, and murder on the Osage Reservation. And this is one of those movies where I would argue that it's a perfect lesson and reminder on how history can sometimes repeat itself if we're not careful. And it also proves that even in his early 80s, Martin Scorsese has still got it as a filmmaker. Boy, where do I begin with how much I love this film? Well, first of all, I was emotionally invested in the story due to how well detailed, well structured, well crafted, and highly engaging it felt. And not only does Martin Scorsese, along with Eric Roth, deliver one of the year's very best screenplays due to its brilliant dialogue, excellent characterization, and the themes of greed, betrayal, and Murder feeling well executed. But I would also argue that Martin Scorsese's directing is also one of the year's very best, especially since not only can you see the vision and passion, not only can you see the passion he had behind the camera, but the way he also directs the actors and actresses in the film is nothing short of outstanding. The acting was terrific. Leonardo DiCaprio gives out one of the year's very best performances as Ernest Burkhart, and the fact he was snubbed for best actor. Why? Yeah, I already ranted on that, but you get the point. Robert De Niro also delivers one of the best performances of his career as William King Hale. But on the other hand, Lily Gladstone is my pick to win Best Actress since she delivers such a riveting performance as Molly Kyle. What makes her performance so magnificent is how you see the pain, the fear and pain that her character witnesses and experiences throughout the entire film, and it makes you heartbroken for what she went through as a result of this. And for Robbie Robertson's final time composing the score for the film, since he sadly passed away back in August, rest in peace, dude. He did an incredible job, since the musical score he composed for the film is one of the year's very best, due to how powerful it felt. Rodrigo Prieto's cinematography, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, is one of the year's very best, and the same could be said for Thelma Schoonmaker's editing. And since it's a 3.5-hour film, I know what you're going to ask me. Does it work? In my opinion, yes, it does. And you know what? Some people have been complaining that the runtime has. And you know what? Some people have been complaining that the pacing felt slow and the film was too long, but this is one of those times where I'm going to have to disagree. This is one of those times where I highly, highly disagree with them. Why? Because you could tell Martin Scorsese put a lot of heart and care with wanting to tell a well-detailed story involving the murder on the Osage Reservation, and every single minute of the film felt justified, and I was never bored throughout the entire film, not only due to how expertly paced it felt, but because of how much I was so emotionally invested in and highly engaged in the story. This movie also has some of the very best production values of costume design I've seen in a movie in 2023, since it feels like you're back in the 1920s. And without spoiling what happens, it also has one of the very best endings I've seen in the movie this entire year, due to how audacious and masterful it felt. Yeah, overall, Killers of the Flower Moon is one of Martin Scorsese's finest movies he's made to date, and one of the most powerful, compelling, gripping, and exhilarating films I've seen in 2023. And that is why, yes, we did. We already mentioned it on the list, but anyway, that's why Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. I could have put this at number one, but my number one blew me away like no other film did in 2023. As it stands, though, Killers of the Flower Moon is number two, and a very big number two on the list. Well, here we are. The number one best movie that I saw in 2023. Out of 150 films I saw in 2023, no film blew me away like this one did. My number one favorite film of 2023 is Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Yes, my number one favorite film of 2023 is Oppenheimer. It's been since July since I saw that film, and I still have not forgotten about that film ever since. No movie hit me harder this year and blew me away like Oppenheimer did. Oppenheimer is such a towering achievement for Oppenheimer is such a towering achievement for director Christopher Nolan, since this is such a fascinatingly powerful, compelling, riveting, and gripping character study biopic that does such a fantastic job exploring who Robert Oppenheimer is known as, other than being credited as the father of the atomic bomb. And this is one of those movies where it really stuck with me and will continue to stay with me as time goes by, because of how much it kept me on the edge of my seat and glued to the screen and everything that was going on. And I just can't help but just tip my hat off to Christopher Nolan for the way he managed to construct such a masterful experience. And speaking of Christopher Nolan, not only was the screenplay that he wrote for the film one of the year's very best due to excellent and riveting dialogue, and the film exploring the chronicles of who J. Robert Oppenheimer was, but I would also argue that Nolan's directing is honestly the best that I've seen in 2023 as well. Not only with how he directs the actors in the film, but how you could also see the vision and passion he had behind the camera while making this movie as well. And how he directed that one scene. That one scene, which I'm not going to give away what happens, but boy, once you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. The acting was absolutely terrific. Cillian Murphy gives out one of the year's very best performances as J. Robert Oppenheimer. Emily Blunt was brilliant as Catherine Kitty Oppenheimer. Matt Damon was also fantastic as General Leslie Groves. And on top of that, Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, Kenneth Branagh, and everybody else deliver such fantastic performances. But it's Robert Downey Jr. that also blew me away as Louis Strauss. His performance was so riveting and powerful that he's honestly my pick to win Best Supporting Actor. Seriously, his performance was just so powerful. I hate his character for what he did. Granted, his character is such a despicable asshole, but this is one of those. But the performance is so powerful that this is one of those characters you love to hate. The musical score is the best I've heard in the movie in 2023. I mean, the musical score, cinematography are both the best of 2023. The editing was terrific. Not to mention that the film's pacing was fantastic, since for a film that's 3 hours long, it was so well paced, especially with how much I was so invested in the story that it just flew by for me. It also has some of the best production values of costume design, aside from Killers of the Flower Moon, I've seen in the movie this entire year, since it feels like we're back in the late 1920s through the 1950s, where the setting of the biopic takes place. And what's fascinating about this movie is that even though you know the outcome of what J. Robert Oppenheimer did, it still leaves you on the edge of your seat and glued to the screen due to how real and well executed the tension of the film felt. And when we eventually see that scene, it will blow you away like it did to me, due to how the film successfully uses practical effects to make that scene look extremely real. And the ending was absolutely brilliant and one of the very best I've seen in the movie in 2023. Yeah, overall, Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan's extraordinary masterpiece and one of the most powerful, compelling, riveting, gripping, and exhilarating films I've ever seen. And without a doubt, it is easily the best movie. And without a doubt, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is easily the best movie that I saw in 2023. To Christopher Nolan and everybody else in the film, I can't help but just tip my hat off to you guys. Thank you for giving us such an extraordinary masterpiece that people flock to the cinemas for. Well done, and thank you so much. And yeah, this might be and to answer your question, yes.
It's between this and Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, but honestly, Oppenheimer just like blew me away. As soon as I left the theater, I was left speechless for a couple minutes. Like I couldn't even speak. Like it was like how I felt when I saw Spotlight and Moonlight. I couldn't speak for a few minutes because of how speechless that movie left me, and in a good way too. Well, that's it. And that will do it for the best movies that Søren and I saw in 2023, as well as the whole podcast. Thank you guys very much for watching this podcast as always. And thanks once again for another good year, for being with us for another year. You guys are excellent, and you guys are like excellent.
All right, next month for the next podcast when we finally start reviewing 2024 movies like Mean Girls and Madam Web.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about Madam Web on the next podcast in March. But yeah. Be sure to subscribe to Søren's channel. The link is in the description below. Give him the love he absolutely deserves. He absolutely deserved it. He's very talented at what he does, and he's a great friend to talk to. And guys, thanks so much for being with us, and hopefully 2024 will be good for Søren and I for us in terms of talking about movies. And that's another thing we love about doing this podcast. We just love discussing movies because like I've been a movie lover all my life, and it's just this is another reason why I'm glad a podcast like this exists. And without you guys, we wouldn't even be here. Without Søren, I wouldn't even be doing another podcast. So thank you, Søren. Thank you, everybody. Hope you all are still having a good 2024. And until we meet again in March for episode 45, where we're going to be taking a look at the first dozens of movies of 2024. Hope you guys have a wonderful have a wonderful new year, and we will see you all in March. And yes, thank you, Christopher Nolan, for reminding us how important physical media is to us too. Special thanks to you, dude. You are amazing. Keep doing what you love doing. And that's all I got to say. Until we meet again in March for episode 45. So long for now. Take care.